It's January 20th and Stormgate has just announced their most recent patch, and it comes at a perfect time because it's the beginning of Steam's RTS Game Fest taking place right here on your favorite RTS games, Stormgate being one of them. And I think a little bit of content coming out is going to be very, very impactful for the next steps of Stormgate. And we just saw this, it dropped like literally 5 minutes ago. So I want to read through it and do some reacting just to give you a sense of the direction that Stormgate is hoping to go with the next phase of the game. I know I took a little bit of a peek, but it sounds like economy is drastically being changed in this upcoming patch. So here it is from the developers. Welcome to patch 0.2.1. While this is relatively a small patch, you will find changes to early economy, bug fixes, and balance changes. On top of this, we're rolling out our season ladder rankings and win-loss stats for the first time, giving everyone a fresh start for the new year. Spoiler alert, they kind of already did. Plus, join us starting January 27th for a Lunar New Year celebration as we ring in the Year of the Snake with double XP for your co-op heroes. So love that they are trying to incentivize a little bit more co-op playing. The co-op experience is pretty fun. I hope it continues to develop, but like things that are there right now, I think are really enjoyable. So obviously, if you guys haven't done so already, you go out to Steam, download Stormgate. It is free to play. So all you have to do is go out, find the game, make sure it's on your wish list, number one, because it is still an early access game. So having it on your wish list does make a positive impact, but make sure to download the game as well and give it a try because it is free to play. As always, replays made on previous builds will no longer function. So we'll talk about the double experience for Lunar New Year to start. Join us for a Lunar New Year celebration as we say goodbye to the Year of the Dragon and welcome the start of the Year of the Snake. For January 27th at 4 p.m. Pacific to February 10th, 4 p.m. Pacific, we're offering double experience for hero progression. Now is the perfect time to get those heroes to level 20. You may or may not know, originally hero levels capped out at level 15. And in the I think the most previous patch, before this one, they added all the way up to level 20. So pretty cool. I think that's a wonderful, great thing. Those patch notes, though, there are some various tooltip fixes. The Vector's Delta Jump ability will now appear at a player's cursor location instead of blinking to the center of a targeted unit. That seems like, yeah, more of a bug fix than anything else. Fixed an issue where casting solar charge while selecting multiple solar habitats did not work as expected. So one of the changes in the most previous patch was a change to solar charge. Solar habitats are habitats that you can upgrade for the Vanguard faction, where it gives you a little bit more supply, but it also gives a 25% boost to whatever building it attaches to. Now that has different interactions for things like turrets. You can make turrets attack a little bit faster. If you attach it to a production facility, they could build units faster. And one of the biggest changes was it used to be one solar habitat could attach to one building. No longer, you can attach as many solar habitats to a building as are in range of said building. So it's really, really strong, but it's been fun to see how Vanguard players have used that. So there must have been an issue trying to queue those up multiple at a time. So good to see that change is evened out. Castiel's collection array now issues a move command in co-op when using right mouse click and fixed an issue where the throat rip ability was not tied to the volume mixer. Good. We still have a lot of interactions where the volume is just a little bit out of whack. Capture point taken, capture point lost, still on that list. So hopefully Frost Giant finds time to bring that down a little bit as well. Okay, here's the biggest set. This is the balance for 1v1. Changes to our MMR and Q systems. We're rebalancing the Q timers. Rolling out early access season 2. This includes a reset of all win-loss stats, so everything. So I'm wondering if that's going to include MMR as well, but specifically win-loss stats. They kind of already did this, spoiler alert. I think they did it by accident. It happened, I think last Friday, where they reset everything, and I don't think it was intentional, but it sounds like they're going to do it again. So people that have played since Friday and have leveled up a little bit, I've done the same thing. My MMR stayed the same, but all of my win losses and my league, my rank, if you will, were reset. And it sounds like that's going to happen again on Tuesday. So division boundaries have been tweaked based on data from early access season 1. That's interesting. I wonder if they're just going to scale it with the amount of people that are playing. And right now there are a significant number of people that are at the very, very top of the ladder, and the number continues to climb. I mean, right now I think it's like in the 2600s, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that number push up even further. So updating parameters for 1v1 matchmaking to help tune match quality. I think this is good. A lot of this, I mean, it does come down to just player base right now, because there are a lot of people on the ladder that are just in that upper echelon. And then there's a lot of people at the bottom of that ladder where they are just getting used to the game, or they might be playing some of their first versus games on the ladder. And it does kind of make for some wonky matchups, because you have to have a nice little balancing act, right? You don't want games to take so long to queue that you never get to play a game, or you wait forever to play a game and then the game doesn't last nearly as long as the wait. But at the same time, you want to be careful about constantly queuing into people that are significantly better than you. There is something to be said about playing against people who are better than you. There are things that you can learn. I mean, you get a free replay out of it, so you can learn build orders depending on who your opponent is and maybe if it's a mirror matchup or not. But the honest reality is, if you just spend all your time getting stomped every time you jump onto the ladder, that can be a pretty negative experience as well. So I do like Frost Giant's commitment to trying to make this as even keel as possible and being realistic with where the game state is currently, but also trying to prioritize a fun game experience for the players. All right, here we go. We got some commentary along with our balance notes here. It says, hey Gators, before diving into the specifics of this patch, we'd like to share the overarching goals of the 1v1 team in the coming months. We're focusing on 2 core gameplay pillars. Number 1, creating exciting moments, making cool things happen more often. And number 2, clarity, simplifying the mechanics and making them easy to understand. Most of the large-scale changes we'll make in 1v1 will be in service of these 2 goals, and our first major update focuses on revamping the economy with adjustments designed to streamline gameplay, enhance pacing, and improve balance across factions. So first, economy changes. General. Maximum Luminite income per base across all 3 factions will be increased from 600 per minute to 750 per minute. So that sounds like they're allowing for more workers to be present on any given Luminite mine. And that sounds like it's correct. So for Vanguard, Vanguard's starting bob count, it will be increased from 8 to 10. Very interesting. Bob Luminite mined per trip increased from 4 to 5. Therium mine per trip will be increased from 5 to 6, and Therium mining time increased from 6 seconds to 7.2. So that's significant. So it's not so much that it's going to be more units necessarily available per mining resource, just that you're more efficient at doing so and you start with more workers. The Therium timing is technically a nerf because it takes longer to mine Therium, but I mean, you're getting more per trip, so I bet it kind of averages itself out. For the Infernal, starting imp count increase from 8 to 10, same as Vanguard. Imp Luminite increase from 4 to 5. Therium 5 to 6. Yeah, this is all the same. All the same. Vanguard and Infernals have relatively the same type of mining mechanics, so this is not surprising that this is the same. Now, the biggest change here is going to be the Celestials. And you can already see, like, this is significant. So the starting prism count is increased from 1 to 2. Prisms can no longer directly mine from Luminite mines. That's a huge change, but instead must enhance an already constructed collection array. Prisms enhance mines for 50% additional income. Each prism effectively adds 150 Luminite per second. Previously, each prism added 75 Luminite per second. This is a huge change, because there have been a lot of like builds and a lot of strategies that involve like moving prisms out onto the map. You could even like evacuate your base in like an endgame scenario, and prisms could just fly to a Luminite mine anywhere on the map and just mine from it. And it was I wouldn't say it was like strong or OP. It just was a mechanic that was in the game that Celestial players could benefit from. But no longer the case. Prisms can only mine from collection arrays. This is gonna think this is going to change some things. One of the things that I think might go unnoticed to begin with, right now, I mean, there isn't really a culture around building prisms. I mean, it's largely just building collection arrays out on the map, right? I mean, the collection array can provide some really good vision in different spots. Obviously, it provides a little bit of damage coverage and defense through the use of Sovereign's Watch. It provides the area that you can build inside of. All of those things, I think, are not Prism designed right now. So it'll be interesting to see if this boost Prism's enhancing mines for 50% additional income, which will effectively add 150 luminite per second. I wonder if that's going to drive Celestial players to build more prisms. Interesting. We're gonna have to see how this evolves. On top of it though, the max number of prisms that can be attached to a luminite mine is decreased from 4 to 3, which is not going to have a major impact, I don't think. Because again, right now prisms aren't super popular to make. There's no changes to the collection array gathering rate. That's fair. Prisms now build from deployed collection arrays rather than arc ships. That's interesting because with arc ships, the overlap between morph cores and prisms existed. And again, granted, people were largely building morph cores, but now there's going to be a larger opportunity for prisms to be built. If they're being built out of collection arrays, that's a different building that's not going to get gunked up in the timing if players are trying to use morph cores to get out onto the map and build more things. Very, very interesting there. Prism cost increased from 125 to 150. Fair enough. Supply cost is up from 2 to 3. Fair enough. Build time increased from 30 to 40. Prisms can now return Therium to deployed collection arrays in addition to arc ships and Therium purifiers. Therium purifier cost increased from 225 to 250. I think this is a good change simply because the Therium purifier provides a prism, and you now have a lot of different options for building prisms. So I think this is an okay change. That's an okay nerf. Morph cores now obey combat unit rally points from the quick macro panel instead of worker rally points. Wow, some big changes for the Celestials in terms of their economy. I think it'll be very, very interesting to follow and see if that has any major impact on Celestial build orders. So overall, these changes are intended to achieve the following. We're going to try and increase the pace of the early game, accelerate the overall pace of the game and expand the scale of battles, and streamline and balance specific Celestial mechanics. Overall, I think these are good changes. There's nothing in here that I think is going to be explicitly OP. Again, I think I would be most interested in seeing how Celestial use the opening set of their game to try and make units while also backing up economy behind it. Because again, prisms haven't been wildly present in build orders, especially at like the top playing level. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. But here's some more commentary. When we first explored quick economy adjustments, our primary objective was to address feedback that the early game pacing felt too slow. Historically, we relied on creep camps to compensate for this, but they introduced several unintended side effects. While experimenting with various solutions, including a rich luminite mine concept, we ultimately determined that the increasing the mining rate and starting worker count was the most natural and effective approach. This adjustment not only speeds up the early game, but also addresses player requests for a larger and more dynamic battles, making the game feel more engaging overall. That's great. I love that. I love that. We also received substantial feedback on the Celestial economy, particularly around the following issues. Collection array income is disproportionately high compared to Prism income. This imbalance caused Celestial economies to spike significantly in the early game. While we appreciated that a mass collection array strategy was viable due to the different expansion patterns among the factions, we found it to be slightly excessive. By increasing Prism efficiency and improving the performance of workers in other factions, building Prisms becomes more critical. Cool. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I think that's a good direction to go. if that's the case. Prism Therium mining efficiency was too high compared to other factions. With these changes, Prisms are now more expensive, and other factions' workers will mine Therium more efficiently. This ensures a more balanced and comparable Therium income rate across all factions. In addition to balance adjustments, we've worked to tackle some of the challenges players face in understanding celestial mechanics. For example, Prisms could mine from both Luminite mines and deployed collection arrays, which often led to confusion. That's true. The Arc ship was overloaded with responsibilities, creating a frustrating user experience. Was it though? I mean, it can upgrade itself. That's important. It would make morph cores. That's important. And then it would make prisms. So I guess maybe people were under prioritizing prisms simply because morph cores were better. While these economic changes address some of the complexity, we recognize there's still work to be done to make Celestials more approachable and intuitive. Love that. I think that's good. We'd like to take a regular look at balance. As it stands, win rates look to be as followed. Vanguard versus Infernal, 50%. Infernal versus Celestial, 52%. Vanguard versus Celestial, 43%. That's not surprising. That seems accurate. Win rates look pretty good overall with the exception of Vanguard versus Celestial, which we believe was affected by changes to hedgehogs in the previous patch. Additionally, players have frequently highlighted two issues: the relative imbalance of the Celestial economy and Vanguard's difficulty in punishing more greedy strategies. Below are balance-related adjustments were included in this patch. So for Vanguard, hedgehogs, damage it changed from 8 plus 7 to heavy to 10 plus 5 to heavy. I think that's reverted. I think that reverts back to what it used to be. But hedgehog armor is decreased from 5 to 0. Okay. I think that prevents a huge imbalance from happening in Infernal versus Vanguard, because hedgehogs still are kind of pretty popular in that meta right now. And then Exos, health increased from 130 to 145. Damage changed, to get stronger. 12 plus 6 to heavy to 14 plus 3 to heavy. In the last patch, we adjusted hedgehogs to make them more specialized against heavy units, enabling Exos to counter them more effectively in direct engagements. However, this change left Vanguard with limited options against early game Kree openings. As a result, we'll be reverting this specific hedgehog adjustment and instead addressing the issue through more changes to the Exo. Looking ahead, we plan to shift our unit design philosophy over the next few patches. Our goal is to reduce the specialization of tier 1 units while focusing on making higher tier units more specialized and impactful. Historically, we believe a large part of the Vanguard is better than Infernal isn't better than Celestial is better than Vanguard triangle we've had in the past few months is due to how hard the tier 1 units counter each other and the game can't stabilize effectively. By delaying these harder counters to later tiers, we aim to make the early game more focused on unit quantity and strategic usage rather than unit types. So alongside that, Hornets. Release Skymine no longer requires an upgrade. That can be really good. And then Helicarrier. Cost increased from 300 250 to 375 325. They now start with 3 bombers on creation and training time has increased. I actually like this. I think that's fine. It always felt very strange for helicarriers to have to instantly make bombers. I think this is a good change. You make them more expensive, you make the training time a little bit bigger, and helicarriers now are actually useful from the get-go. Infernal changes. Gaunts. Ground weapon acquisition range increased from 7 to 9. This addresses a niche issue where Gaunts had difficulty engaging a ground army half a screen away if there was an arc ship directly on top of them. Hexen, miasma energy cost decreased. They want to get miasma back in. I like it. Miasma cooldown decreased from 15 seconds to 2 seconds. Miasma no longer requires channeling, and it no longer drains energy during channeling. Miasma now has a 5-second fixed duration, down from potentially infinite. And miasma effect delay time decreased from 1.5 seconds to 1. So now it has a fixed duration. So does that mean you can cancel it? Or once you cast miasma, boom, it's a 5-second spell. Kind of like, well, I guess that's kind of like Dark Prophecy, right? For Animancers. Okay. We received feedback that miasma was overly nerfed and players missed the positional play provided by Hexen. We've reworked miasma to be more useful, more straightforward, and more different from Dark Prophecy. This feels more similar because before miasma it took like a second to wind up, and then as long as the Hexen had energy in its tank, it would continue to provide that spell. But now Miasma is just going to be a 5-second castable. And finally, we have celestial changes. The Arc Fortress. Fate's End damage reduced from 1800 to 1200. The end of the Jesus house is here. Fate's End energy cost reduced from 75 to 50. Fate's End cooldown increased from 10 to 20 seconds. So Fate's End is the big laser that the tier 3 Arc Fortress can cast onto buildings. And it is really strong. Like they created an entire build around the idea of getting your tier 3 Arc Fortress as quick as possible. You just float across the map and you keep dropping energy banks to cast it. So I mean, the reduction in damage is big. It does cost less energy, so that's technically a buff, but the cooldown is up double as well. So I think that's overall going to balance itself out. This ability was solely being used to snipe enemy command structures such as shrines. We've reworked the ability to be better against other structures, but worse against shrines. The Morph Core, health decreased from 230 to 180, reducing the effectiveness of Morph Cores as a combat unit in order to better mitigate the effectiveness of certain rush tactics, especially against Infernals. So this is going to have an impact on like Morph Core rushes specifically. The Argent, damage changed from 8 plus 4 to heavy to 10 plus 3 to heavy. High energy bonus damage decreased from 100% to 50%. That's significant. The Long Shot module upgrade also now increases the damage bonus from high energy from 50% to 75%, because Argents have just been really good at kind of every stage of the game because they do bonus damage to heavy, and early on, I mean, they deal a lot. So like charged damage changed from 16, 24 versus heavy to 15, 19.5 versus heavy. And then the Long Shot module changes that from 1624 to 17.5, 2275. Okay. Following our goal to make all tier 1 units less pointed, we're adjusting Argents to be more all around, both in the sense that they'll be less specialized against heavy targets, but also reduce the differential between when they have energy and when they do not. So ideally, this should make maybe Argent spam less desirable early on. I think we'll start seeing more Kree, but it's kind of been pretty balanced from what I've seen. A lot of Argent Kree, like Cabal armies. The Scanner no longer requires an Arc Station, but now requires a Guardian Nexus. So the Scanner, that's the effectively Observer, like the Protoss Observer from StarCraft 2. Very similar. Now is tier 1 tech, but requires Guardian Nexus, which is a tier 1 building. We'd like to grant Celestials more easy scouting at tier 1, especially in the mirror. That's silly. They have a top bar scout. I know it's not that simple, but that's fair. The Cabal, gravity flux duration decreased from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. That's the lift or pull down, because you could do either. It can lift ground units up and disable them. It can pull air units down. I don't know if it disables. It might disable them. I bet it does. But that duration is decreased from 6 to 4 seconds. Gravity Flux was slightly more effective against Vulcans than we'd like, which we believe is one of the big culprits around the imbalance in Vanguard versus Celestial. Vector, anti-air weapon range increased from 6 to 8, and the Scythe movement speed increased from 5.5 to 6. The two changes above allow Celestials to more easily fight Infernal flyers. The change to Vectors further enhances them as an anti-Spriggan unit, while the movement speed buff to size allows them to stay on pace with Flayed Dragons. Seraphim, Condemnation creep damage increased from 200% to 300%. The Creep Bane Guard creep damage reduction increased from 50% to 75%. So they're making Seraphim stronger. The Seraphim wasn't impactful enough in its intended role to justify its usage. We believe it can be significantly strengthened without becoming overpowered, particularly given the reduced importance of creep in this patch compared to the standard mining economy. While this is not a large patch, we do believe the economic changes and adjustments on balance will have a significant impact on how the game feels. We're resetting the ranked ladder, and we'll be keeping a close eye on how the three factions perform. Be sure to leave feedback on Discord or Steam and let us know how the game feels after these changes go live. And this patch does go live on Tuesday. So It is a good thing to note that we will immediately be able to experience how this impacts everything, and we'll have to see how it moves forward. So what do you guys think? What are some of the changes that were proposed in the patch that have you the most excited? What are some of the changes that you're worried are just going to be OP beyond belief? Personally, I think that the changes are going to help bring the game a little bit closer to the center. I would like to see Vanguard versus Celestial be a little bit more balanced out. We've seen a lot of pro games in the last week or two where Celestials have been able to flex a significant advantage over their Vanguard opponents, and having more resources and tools at their disposal, I think, is going to be really, really good for Vanguard players who want to continue climbing the ladder. Just a reminder, guys, Stormgate is live. It is on Steam. It's free to play. Feel free to download it. I hope you get a chance to play the game, especially since this week is RTS Fest as a part of Steam's Next Fest celebrations. We're celebrating all games RTS, and hopefully you'll get a chance to celebrate Stormgate with us. It's free to play. Just make sure to download it on Steam and jump in, and hopefully you can enjoy some awesome RTS games with us. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit that follow button. It does help me out. Subscribe to the channel if you want. You can check out my Twitch, where I stream most of my games, twitch.tv/RushiSC. We'll be doing some live content here over the next week or so, helping cast the Arrail Stormgate Invitational on top of just playing some of our own ladder games. So feel free to come check it out and let me know what you think about the game and how it continues to evolve in 2025.